Hello, I hope you're doing well today. So Dune Awakening goes live today for the majority of players who bought the game for the $50 price, right? But for those of you who bought it, you may be wondering, is the game worth it? Should I refund it before putting in a full 2 hours? And for those who haven't bought it, you may be wondering, is it worth buying? Right, so what's the good about Dune? Well, it's Dune, right? They built it off the IP. I don't know nothing about the Dune lore. I didn't really watch all the movies and stuff, so I really can't tell you if they did a good job on the Dune IP or not. Well, I can tell. Well, we can go into this and looking at this objectively as a game and not the Dune universe. So what's good about it? The crafting system is well done. That should be expected because of Conan, right? The game requires a lot of grinding to be able to craft all the stuff that's in the game. So a solo player will have many hours of just grinding materials just to advance. It is a huge world, right? You have the Hagen Basin, which allows 40 players per instance, and then you have all these other worlds attached to it, and just the basin itself is gigantic for one map. This is good and bad at the same time. And then you go into the deep desert, and it's even bigger, it's gigantic area, and that's the kind of the in-game area, right? So on top of the massive world and the crafting system, the other things that are good about the game, the building system, which is decent and very similar to what they had in Conan, although it feels maybe closer to Once Human, but it's close enough to Conan. It might be from that. It could also be from the same pack that Once Human was from. This game actually feels like it has a lot of the elements from Once Human in it, so maybe they used the same pack to build this game out of. And for being a mostly open world PvP game, there is a lot of PvE to be done, and a lot of contracts you can get, which are kind of the go for quest kind of things that you get in MMOs, even though this isn't really an MMO, but it's got similar quests and stuff in it. So you can go assassinate someone, go get some resources, go fetch an item and bring it back. Those kind of like contracts you can pick up from the contract vendor. And that's probably about it for what's really good about this Dune game. So we've done the good, what's the bad, and then what's the ugly. Alright, so the bad about this game is combat. Right, combat is glaringly not fun. But it's not fun. It's really weird. You have some skills and abilities, but they're not really that fleshed out, and they seem very surface level to get excitement going, but so it seems fun and exciting for the first few days, and then it's like, oh no, this is kind of bland. And then the gunplay is just not there, and it's okay, but it's not great. And their third-person offset shooting is just a little awkward. It needs a little bit more refinement. With some refinement, it could be really good for gunplay. The melee itself, it's meh. There's not a lot to it. It's just, it is what it is, and trying to use slow attacks to get through shields and stuff like that, it sounds cool on paper, but the way the animations work and the way it works in the game and how easily it is to interrupt is just not that interesting. And like I said, other games have done this better. I mentioned Once Human. Once Human is pretty much what Dune is. They're the same basically kind of game, but Once Human does it a lot better, and it's free to play. Alright, let's move on. We know the combat's not great. Then there's the death worm, the big worm god thing that comes out of the sand and eats you. It's scary when you first encounter it and you see it going and stuff. It's really not that big of a threat in this game. It's really easy to avoid, which is fine. If you're constantly being eaten by this guy, it would really suck because you lose everything that's on you. It's just gone. But to balance it out, it's easy to avoid them, but if you mess up and get caught, then yeah, you get punished. But I always expect, but the worm is kind of like everything else. It's surface level entertaining, like it's very surface level. There's no depth to it, and it's even kind of lame when you get eaten by it. Unfortunately, I got eaten by it on purpose just to see what would happen, and as soon as it gets within range of you, you just die and go to a black screen. You don't get to see you getting eaten. You don't actually enter its mouth. It's yeah, it was kind of disappointing. So again, there's another element there that they could fix, make better, and that would definitely improve the game. So if they work on the combat and the death worm, the game will step way up. And the vehicles. There's only a couple of vehicles in the game. And for a massive game with this much movement, it doesn't allow a lot of customability, but it does keep the game simpler. You know, there's not a whole lot of versatility on your speed bike and your ornithopters and your little farming truck. So some versatility with the vehicle, since, you know, that's all there is for getting around. You can't tame anything or anything like that. Would be really nice to be able to have some customization in there. But again, not a big deal. But the vehicles, they're kind of meh. They're not that enjoyable to run around on. They're okay at first, but again, as it goes on, you're just like, eh. And then we come to armor. The armor you wear in the game. Maybe the armor needs to be balanced. Right now, if I go, let's say, I get 500 armor, and I run into a fight, I will die slightly slower than I would if I was wearing 150 armor. Alright, with no mitigation, even though my 500 armor set has a lot of mitigation. So, but damage is very... The damage mitigation that the armor applies and the damage mitigation that is also on the armor is so low that it doesn't feel much better than wearing something weaker. So, I mean, maybe it makes a big difference. It'll probably make a big difference in PvP when, you know, one or two, you can get hit one or two more times over somebody wearing lesser equipment than you. But in the PvE part of the game, it's really like, oh, why did I bother spending my resources upgrading to this suit of armor? So there needs some more balancing in the armor department in this game. Alright, so that's the bad, but what about the ugly? Well, this is supposed to be a PvP game. There are a couple of areas you can go in and have PvP in. There's not a lot to do PvE-wise. If you're into the Dune story and all of that, there's not much story here. It's the story part of the game is very quick. There are a couple of factions you can go through, but again, very quick. There's not a lot going on outside of building up your base, getting your weapons and gear ready, and then going into the deep desert and trying to fight. And so that's where another problem comes in. Not only is the basin so big that it takes forever to traverse it, right? It takes a long time to get anywhere because the world's so big, but it's empty. And yes, it's a desert, but deserts don't have to be empty. And this is a game. You know, on top of that, the PvE encounters you run into are just not that exciting. The AI is not that smart. The behavior isn't consistent. It seems a little odd. And then when you go out into the deep desert, where you're supposed to have these massive PvP battles, well, there's only 9 grids for each server in the desert itself, right? And when you head out there, each grid can only hold 100 players. So you're not going to get a massive PvP fight going on out there. Especially if you have mega tribes joining this, which if it's anything like Ark and all these other games like this, you're going to have large tribes. And they're just going to block off those squares so you can't fight them anyway. They're just going to put 100 people in there and farm all day long. On top of that, unless they fix it, you can actually, the first 3 grids to enter, if a group of players allies up enough, they can fill all 3 of those grids with players and then block the desert off to everybody. Alright, if you can't move through it until those 300 players move forward, and they choose not to move forward so that you can't enter, they basically control who gets to go in and out of the deep desert. And if you think that's not possible, it is very possible that groups will be doing this. There are huge amounts of players for games like this, and they will pull strategies like this off. So what they do in Ark, it's what they do in other games. It won't be a surprise when it happens. And that's another part of this game. It's a PvP game, right? But the deep desert is so big that once you get out there, if it's not being blocked by mega tribes or whatever, you happen to be lucky enough to be on a server that doesn't have those, you get out into the deep desert. The deep desert is so big and massive that you may not find another player. And it's just a lot of traversal. The deep desert is just traversal. You know, it's got very few stuff. There's very little to do out there. I know there's dungeons and things out there you can go into, but they're spread out. Everything's so spread out, and there's just a few resources here and there, and you got to really jump between to get to resources. But resources respawn fast, so you can just camp resources, or you can travel around looking for lots of them. But the deep desert is just traveling. So, the problem with PvP in a game like this is they use Battle Eye as their security. And for those of us that have been playing Ark for years and other games that use Battle Eye, we know that it's super easy to get around. You can turn it off while you're in the middle of the game, and then you won't get detected cheating. So we know aimbot's going to be a big problem. So even if you find PvP, you'll probably just be aimbotted until you're dead. So the PvP is just going to be kind of, with the way the combat works and stuff, PvP is just going to be kind of lame. It may be exciting at first, but then it's going to be kind of lame. Here's the really bad part. A bunch of people are going to jump on today. They're going to start playing it. They may be on for a week before they realize the issues with the game, and they are going to have buyer's remorse. And they're going to disappear. And this is my prediction, and I'm being generous here. By the end of July, all right, the player base will have dropped by 30%. Again, being generous. I think it'll be more than that, but being generous, 30%. Right? And by the end of October, the player base will be non-existent. You'll have players logging in to maintain their base, pay their taxes, do a little bit of farming here and there, maybe go see if they can find a quick fight, and then they'll be gone. And there won't be a lot of active, like throughout the entire day, there won't be a lot of active stuff happening. That's my prediction. It'd be great if my prediction was wrong, so the people that do enjoy this game get to will have the constant interaction out there. And on top of that, for players wanting to run private servers, you have to pay to have a private server. You can't just host one on a computer. Say you have a computer that's designed for hosting servers on, and that's what you like to do. You're not allowed to host your own server, at least not currently. Maybe they'll change something in the future if they get enough requests, but right now you have to buy a server. Not everybody wants to do that. Some players want to be able to have better control over their server and give it more power than what you can get from paying a lot of money for a server every month. My recommendation for Dune is, if you are playing it for the IP, great. You have friends in it, great. If you're trying to play it solo, you probably should just refund it and get your money back, or don't buy it. Right? There are free games that do what Dune does, but better. Once Human, Throne and Liberty, those are both free-to-play games that do it better, and you don't have to spend money on them like a lot of free-to-play games do to be able to enjoy it. And think of it this way: if this wasn't a Dune game, this was a standalone IP. They did something brand new, but it was this with the death worms and all of that. But it wasn't called Dune, right? It didn't have anything to do with the IP. Would you still want to play it? Now, if they just added some more fauna to the game, we had more animals running around, the desert felt more alive, we had some desert plants and things like that. Maybe those aren't part of the Dune universe, but it would give a little life to the game. Give us more vehicles, give us fix the combat, fix the death worms, and allow more players into the PvP zones, and fix the issue of players being able to block everybody from getting into the deep desert. Then we would see a game that would be worth playing. So in the future, this game may become much better as long as they continue to work on it. And the devs so far, since the early launch, the 5-day early launch, have been updating the game every day, fixing things that were issues with the game, adding in new features to the game that were causing player distress and things like that. So they are working on it, and they do want to make it better, which is always nice to see. And once they do make it better, then it probably would be worth spending some money on. But right now, it just feels early access, and I personally would wait if I hadn't already bought it. But if you're going to jump into the game and play anyway, make sure to check out my beginner's tips and tricks to help you get a head start in the game. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. Have an awesome day.